Hi everyone, it's Joe here from Lawn Solutions Australia and welcome to this episode of Turf Talk, where today we're joined by Anthony Bashall, the Acting Open Spaces Manager at the Royal Botanic Gardens, Sydney. Welcome, Anthony.
Thank you.
So, just to start with, we haven't had anyone from any botanic gardens on here before. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what it is you do and about the iconic site that you're a custodian of?
Okay, in the Botanic Garden, Sydney, my role is to maintain the turf. We have 64 hectares of land there, which covers the domain and the Royal Botanic Gardens. We also, at the moment, my acting role, I help with the maintenance of the trees, and also contracts. So with like irrigations going in, and stuff like that, to manage those sort of contracts.
So 64 hectares of grass, and I did a little bit of Googling this morning, 27,000 different tree types. Does that sound about right?
That's it.
That's right.
Well done.
Yeah, thank you. I do my research sometimes on this. So surely with such an iconic site and so much stuff to actually care for and look after, there'd be a bit of pressure involved, I'd imagine, to keep everything looking tip-top.
Yeah, exactly. There is a lot of pressure, and we have about 5 million people that come to the site each year.
Yeah.
And working around these people and having the site looking pristine all the time is for events that are coming up or weddings. We get a lot of weddings.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Corporate stuff that happens there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So where do they do the weddings? Where do they perk them up?
Oh, you name it, mate. Anywhere through the Royal Botanic Gardens.
Is that right?
Well, it's such an iconic place, and there's so many beautiful places where you can get married, and there's all these lawns. There's an area called the Calyx, which actually has the largest flowered wall in the Southern Hemisphere.
Wow. Okay.
So people like to get married in there.
Yeah.
It's an amazing spot to get married.
It's the first wedding ad we've ever done on this podcast. If you're coming to get married, check out the Royal Botanic Garden, Sydney.
Yeah, that's it, mate. That's it.
So 64 hectares of grass, a bunch of trees to look after. How many people does it take to get something like this looking like it does?
Okay, so on the turf side of stuff, I've got myself, who's the senior horticulturalist, and then I have 2 greenkeepers and 3 labourers.
Right.
That look after the whole site.
That's enough?
Oh, look, there's never enough people to, but no, we do a great job. We get everything done that needs to be done, and the place, for anything that's coming in is always looking pristine.
So it's over, again, with my research this morning, it's over 200 years old, I believe now, the garden, 1816 I read. Which
that's right.
Sounds about right?
Yep. You're doing well.
So are you dealing with, obviously you're dealing with a lot of trees and stuff that are quite old. Is there much around the heritage thing you've got to be careful of when you're looking after stuff in gardens like that, or can you pretty much do what you want?
No, 100%. Like you go into the Botanic Gardens and there's trees there that are only 1 or 2 of in the world.
Right. Okay.
So, we're not going to be the people that ring bark that tree.
Yeah, sure.
But no, like the actual, the level that we go to protect the plants, to protect the trees is a lot higher than what I've ever done working on golf courses or bowling greens and all that. Yeah. We'll get into your career a little bit later on, because you do actually have a pretty extensive career across golf and also bowls in Australia. But talk to me about sort of what a typical day looks like. Let's break it up in 2 different forms. Obviously, in summer, it's mow, trim, pretty much, I'd imagine. What about in the off-season when things, I'll say the off-season, but you probably don't see it as an off-season, when things slow down, when it's winter and the grass is a little bit dormant, what takes most of your attention when it's not growing so rapidly? Okay, so for us, going through summer, in the domain, we have carols in the domain, we have marathons, we have New Year's Eve, we have concerts, we've got the opera, which is actually an interesting thing. They put an opera stage in the harbour, and then they put seating all over Fleet Stairs. Yep. And they do a cinema down there. Yeah. So after all this has happened, this is when we start rebuilding. Right. Okay. So with all the events that we have a great system which we put in place. Yeah. So basically, I'll do a pre-assessment of the site, GPS any damage, and put a rating against it. Right. Okay. And then when they're finished, I'll do the same thing, put it all on a map, and then it comes out with a monetary figure of what the damage they've made. Then we can charge them to the client. Yeah. So that's how we fix the turf. Right. Without costing the gardens money. Yeah. Yeah. So after we've done all that, gone through the season, what you call the off season, that's when we start doing all our rebuilding. And it's interesting listening to podcasts when people say, "Oh, you can't plant grass in winter." And it's like we do it all the time. So that's when you do most of your turfing through the winter months. Yeah. Okay. So which it has good and bad points. The good point is that the plant doesn't dry out as quick. Sure. Which is great. It's actually a pretty good time to lay grass in some instances. Yeah. Look, you got to pick the right grass. Yeah. Not all grasses go great in winter to establish, but the tiff tufts, the buffaloes, another we use a lot of Durban as well.
Yep,
they go great being established, and even the cooches that we use.
So I've been there a couple of times now. Normally when we bring a lot of international guests out here, and the first thing we do when we take them from the airport is generally take them straight to the gardens and show them the turf plots, which we'll talk a little bit later. Obviously, there's a lot of tiff tuff to show them now too, but it's just a nice place in general to take them. Every time we go there, the place is looking an absolute picture. Every now and then there's some posts up like, do not enter this bit, it's under repair or whatever. But having such a, I wouldn't say pressure, but having the esteem of something so iconic, you have to make it look good all the time. Is it a frustrating thing when it gets trampled and belted up, or is that just part and parcel of what you do now?
Look, you can look at it. Yeah, it is frustrating, or you can look at it that the site's being used for getting people together and people having concerts and cultural experiences and all that.
Yeah.
So you can have two frame lines. You go, oh damn, I've just spent all this time fixing this, and it's gone all. But then you
stage
go,
on it.
Yeah, but if you've done your maintenance right and you've got everything in the soil ready to go.
Yeah.
Which is a big thing. Everybody talks about the health of the plant, but I reckon it's the health of the soil.
100%.
Yeah. If you have everything ready to go after that event, it's not as hard to get it back.
Yeah.
So you just got to be positive about it and move on and, fix it.
And it comes to the saying, preparation prevents poor performance. So a lot of people that listen to this podcast are lawnies. They're obviously into their grass. Do you have a set program, or is it reactive, or what's the kind of stuff that you do? Let's talk fertilization-wise, pre-emergent-wise, which you may use as well. What's kind of the stuff you use to keep your lawns looking great? What's your program in a nutshell? Don't give away all your secrets.
Okay, so the key thing is I like to know what's actually happening with the soil. Mm-hmm. So we get soil tests done every few years.
Yep.
So you know what's in there. There's no point in throwing a heap of nitrogen on and it's already in there.
Yeah.
You're just wasting your money. Mm-hmm. I guess one of the key things being an events site, we actually use low nitrogen fertilizers.
Yep.
I'm more into using potassium, silica to harden up the cells.
Yep.
Kelp to actually with the roots.
Yeah.
And aeration.
Yeah.
In a pre-emergent, yes, we do use a pre-emergent. We'll use an oxidizon, as I find it doesn't shear the roots.
Yeah, sure.
Which is good because you've always got the younger turf coming through and you don't want to set it back.
Yep.
And then I guess also your water maintenance that you do. Irrigating is not over irrigating it, keeping it at the right moisture.
The whole place has got irrigation?
No.
Okay.
You'd actually be really surprised.
Okay.
We don't have a lot of irrigation in there. I'm actually working on a project now to get an irrigation system installed.
Yeah.
Central controller. We're running the maxi cables through, doing a few lawns at the moment. So out in the domain, so where we have carols, that's all irrigated.
Yeah.
And then I've got sports fields over the other side. They're all irrigated as well. So we're running 3 soccer fields, netball field and all that as well.
It just keeps getting bigger, this place.
Yeah. So they're irrigated, but the rest is not. So then you just got to make sure you have the right moisture in the soil going into the event, that it's not too wet so it doesn't create more compaction.
Yeah.
And also the other thing is knowing what event's coming in and actually having it set up. So if you've got like a big festival coming in, you're not going to have the ground that soft. You're going to firm it up going in.
Yeah.
And then as soon as they bump out, we'll start aerating it.
Yeah.
And then giving it a drink and then a little feed. And that'll normally make it jump back in a week.
So the bits that don't have irrigation, you're dragging hoses and sprinklers around, are you? Or
at times, yeah. We try to minimise that.
Yeah.
And then you start looking at your turf species.
Yeah.
We find the most drought tolerant that you can use.
Yeah, right.
That sort of stuff.
We'll dive into the turf types a bit later on. Again, it's a turf podcast, so we'd be remiss not to talk about that. But we just spoke challenges, and is Carroll's the biggest event people-wise that you deal with when you're looking after that area?
No, nowhere near it.
Okay,
nowhere near it. Because you got to think we also have Vivid that come in. That comes into the gardens.
Yeah,
which is an interesting one to fix up afterwards because that's more into the winter.
Yeah. You're not getting the bounce back with the growth because most of the festival would be around the summer months.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. The down on Fleet Stairs where we've got opera and cinema and a few other things down there, that's into winter.
Yeah.
But we don't really have too much issues getting that back.
Yeah.
The only issue we've had in the last few years is the rain.
too much of it.
Oh, it's bucketed down. Seems like every time they go to bump out, it's like pouring rain.
Yeah.
So it'd be great this year if we could organise that would happen.
Oh, I've seen the forecast. It doesn't look like it's not going to happen. There might be another wet one there, but we'll see how we go. Obviously, I spoke to how iconic this venue is, but in your opinion, what's the showpiece of the Royal Botanic Gardens? If you were going to say, hey, I'm here every day, this is the bit that I recommend you go and see, or this is the bit I like the most. Do you have a favourite?
That's a good question. It depends on the time. Like, I know people love Bennelong Lawn, so that's the one which is right in front of the Opera House, and you get the Harbour Bridge and Opera House gets used for a lot of weddings. Yeah, that's pretty iconic. And you see it in a lot of advertising for stuff. Yeah. So was it the Wallabies last week? They did their jersey.
Were they? Okay.
Jersey reveal. Yeah. So that gets used quite a lot. I like probably areas like the Flower Bed Lawn, which is cylinder mode. It's on the harbour. When you've got the stripes pointing towards the Opera House or something like that, that looks pretty cool. Yeah. But it changes from day to day for me. Like, going into the sports season and you got it all striped up and, Mickey Mouse, and it's like, this is awesome. This is good. You can't get any better. Go on the festival season out in the Phillip, having that all ready to go, like, it looks pretty awesome when you see like a massive stage and the sound towers and everything, and then you've got your lines and all that set up.
You'd be pretty chuffed with that when you see it. Yeah. And that just checked my memory what you said just then. With, say, the Wallabies, for example, coming on, I imagine you get a lot of people that I wouldn't even consider actually to come and use this space. Yep. Is it, in your role, have you ever had a chance to shake hands with the Prime Minister or meet someone of the high echelon, or how's that work for you?
Oh, look, I do get the chance sometimes to bump into celebrities down there and talk to them, but no, I haven't met any Prime Ministers. Oh, all right. I've seen them walk past.
Yeah. Johnny jogging in the tracksuit.
Seen all that. But no, you get to meet some pretty incredible people. Yeah, I bet. Even just walking through. Yeah. You'll be cutting a lawn, someone's talking to you, and you're like, that's Marsha Hines. Asking me questions about grass.
How cool is that?
And you're like, okay, cool. And, you do get those situations where you're like, wow. Yeah. Didn't expect to see you here.
So, obviously, you haven't just stumbled into such an important role that you have now. You've had a long career in turf, but we'll step away from the gardens now and talk about you, if that's okay. So, sure. Two things to start. Where did your career start in turf, and what first prompted you, other than money, start getting paid and start getting a job, to get into working outdoors and in the grass industry?
Okay, look, I started in the turf industry about 30 years now. Wow. 30 years ago. I left school and I was actually doing a horticultural operations course. And I had a mate who was at another bowling club, and he came up to me and he goes, there's an apprenticeship going. You should apply for it. Yeah. So I went down to the bowling club, put my resume in, and then got an interview. 3 of us were interviewing it. On that day, the first guy was shocking. Okay, yeah. I was the second guy, and I got the job on the spot.
Yeah, good to that.
So, I started at Beverly Hills Bowling Club there. I spent about 3 years there. Sadly, the club was going broke at the time. But luckily for me, a few people in the industry heard I was looking for a job, and Gary Dempsey from New South Wales gave me a call.
New South Wales Golf Club.
Yep.
So, before we go into the golf club, bowls. So, you're cutting Tiff Dwarf.
Yep, we had Tiff, Dwarf, and Greenleys Park there. The same with the banks. Yep. It was the 3 greens. It was a great place. Yeah. Had our own reno gear, everything. So great learning curve. So I learned how to renovate the greens, how to do everything. And I ain't been 2 people there. And working under Mark Russell, who was a greenkeeper there, he was a fantastic mentor to have. Yeah. He took the time. He was really patient to show me everything. And that was a great stepping and, getting the passion to go further in greenkeeping.
And I suppose if you're going to learn about grass, learning grass cut at 1, 2, and 3 mils is probably a good place to start.
Yeah. Exactly. They say that a lot of good greenkeepers come from bowling clubs because of how high spec the greens are.
Yeah, understand
and, that. Literally you got a bar sitting where you work and people are looking over there. Yeah. Commenting on what you're doing. Yeah. So it's, pretty high profile for the club anyway.
So out of bowls and into golf straight away? It was one to the other?
I did 3 years of my apprenticeship on the bowling club, and then obviously got offered the job at New South, went there. Yeah. And then I was there for probably a month and a half, and then I got a call to say that my old boss was leaving, come to the farewell. Mm-hmm. So I went to his farewell and they were trying to get me to come back as a greenkeeper there.
Okay. At the same bowls club?
The same bowls club. Yeah. And I knew the writing was on the wall because we were the last 2 staff members left on site. And I said, oh, look, no, I don't want to do that. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for the offer.
Yeah.
And then after a period of time at this farewell, I ended up buying some renovation gear off him.
Okay.
And then maintaining everything except for the greens.
Right.
Which only lasted for 6 months before they went under.
Yeah.
But then I ended up with renovation gear. So I had a Winston Subtle green shaver for a few years, and I used to contract out and shave greens.
So we don't hear about that much anymore. So obviously Simon Adaman, who you've met and has been on this podcast, has talked about shaving greens. So it's a dethatching method.
Exactly. That's it. Just use dethatch, put it in the windrows, pick it up afterwards.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I did that for a couple of years.
Do they still do it?
There are still machines floating around.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's as popular as it used to be.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I did it for about 3 years, I think.
So you weren't at New South Wales for that long then? You went New South Wales?
I was at New South for about 5-6 years.
Oh, okay.
And I was doing this at the same time.
Oh, right.
I'd show up to work with a box trailer and a green shaver on the back, finish my work, and then go shave a bowling green afterwards.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, then it just got a bit too big. And talking to people in the industry, like Darby Muller, who's a golf course builder and stuff, and he was like, oh, bowling greens are probably not the way to go. So I ended up getting rid of it and concentrating more on the golf course.
So let's talk New South Wales for a while, for a bit now. So I've been fortunate enough to go there just recently and play golf, and it is an absolute magical place. Like, by the way, it's just beautiful. And what's the biggest difference you noticed from going from just looking after this 1,400 square metre patch when that was it, or obviously some other things, to looking after such a vast, it's hectares and hectares of grass, and it's really high spec as well.
Yep.
What's the difference you noticed? The major difference you noticed is going on?
Okay, the first thing I noticed was the budget.
Yeah.
The big difference in what money you had. Yeah. And I guess the second thing I noticed, on the bowling green, we used to have perforating pipes for watering. Mm-hmm. So, the big aluminium pipes, carry them on your shoulder every Monday, set them up, an hour of water.
Yep.
And then going to an irrigation system that was actually controlled.
Press a button.
Yeah, press a button, there it runs. Mm-hmm. That was a big thing. And then Gary was a big believer in spoon feeding his greens. Mm-hmm. So just the actual fertilizer program was unbelievable. And just stuff like even working at other golf courses that Gary would want you to pull up to that green, the size of the green, and you actually mix the right amount of fertilizer for that green.
Yeah.
And then go spray it.
Yeah.
Go to the next green, mix it again. So it wasn't like, fill up a 1,000-litre tank and then only put 100 litres on this one, 150 on the next. He wanted everything precise.
It's precise. So because they're both precise, grass surfaces, I suppose, and when you talk bowling greens and when you talk golf greens. But you're working on bent grass in New South Wales, were you?
Yeah.
Bent greens?
Bent and power.
Bent and power. So what's it like looking after a warm season grass at such a short height and then going to cool season? Is just water the main difference for you there?
I guess, that's a huge thing to start off with. And then we do a lot of dusting at New South, which we didn't do a lot of. On a bowling green, you have your renos at one part of the year and that's it.
Yeah.
And then really after that, you may have gone over with a hydrojet, but you'd have it pretty firm. That was one of the big things that I really did notice, just the amount of work that goes into a green.
Yeah.
And then when you make your way up on the golf courses is, like you might be out on a Saturday and it's a warm day and you think, I better go to work and water the greens.
Yeah.
And check them out.
It's non-stop, isn't it?
Yeah, non-stop. Like I remember at one stage leading into tournaments, I went in there on a Sunday just to do holes and all that sort of stuff. And I left 16 hours later. Yeah. Because it was a hot day and we were going around spot watering so that
people don't understand this. They can drop in 24 hours, can't they?
Oh, even less. Even less. It's scary when you get a hot spot on them and they just start drying out.
Yeah, particularly at a place like that. You don't want your greens to dry out in a course like that.
At New South, you're right on the water too. Yeah. So you're getting that, the breeze coming up.
Yeah.
So it's a constant battle.
Yeah. A beautiful spot anyway. You got to work in a pretty nice spot every day. And that clubhouse and everything there is just magic. The old clubhouse.
It is really amazing. Cool. It is amazing.
After that, where was your next step after New South?
I went to Bonnie Doon for about 3 years.
Yep.
I was 2IC.
Yep.
Great place to work. Worked under Dave Scaife. Same issues.
Yeah.
The other place. Not as much money. So it was, New South was very much a eye-opener to what you could spend, especially being an irrigationist.
Yeah.
But Bonnie Doon, it was a great place to learn the management of people.
Yeah.
And all that.
Yeah.
And then eventually I moved on from there.
And probably how to look after a surface without getting, just go and do it sort of thing. You actually have to do it to a budget and stick to a budget. And
And there was other issues. I remember my first weekend I worked at Bonnie Doon, the 13th green, there was a car on fire. Never had that happen to me in New South.
Seen out of Happy Gilmore.
Yeah. I was just like, coming from New South, like out in the middle of nowhere, and no one touched anything. And then, going around in the dark changing holes, and you're like, oh, okay. What do I do here?
Teach me this at TAFE.
Yeah, that wasn't one of the things. But no, it was a great place to work. But, it's just, being in closer to the city, you had different issues with people coming in.
Yeah.
And all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. And was it always gardens from then on, was it? Did you stay in the turf industry, or did you hop out before you came back to the role you're in now?
No, I actually found out about the job at the gardens, and I thought, I'll give it a go.
Yeah.
It was just like a labouring position.
Yeah.
/ greenkeeper.
Mm-hmm.
They were looking for someone. Mm-hmm. So same thing again, back in the day when you can go in with your resume and put it down and said, this is me. Yeah. And I got the job as a temporary person.
And when was this?
That would have been 16 years ago.
So you've been in the gardens the whole time?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then after that, got a permanent job, worked up as a greenkeeper, senior horticulturist. Now I'm acting open space manager. And
what has your background helped with in this role? Obviously, you know how to look after grass, but is it the soil side of things where you think it's really come in the most handy, is it? Or
I would say, soil is I think one of the biggest things.
Yeah.
Gets totally underrated when you listen to people talking. And also my ability with irrigation.
Yep, sure.
My background on that, knowing that. So it's great to be able to read specs and actually know what they're talking about.
Yeah, and be handy.
Yeah. So that's helped a lot. It's I couldn't say there's really just one thing that's going through the industry. You pick up things from everybody, and it may not be someone you may go to a trade day and someone says something, you're like, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And then you start implementing it at your work as well.
That's a great thing about our industry, and we say it on here all the time, is it's a very connected and open industry in a lot of ways. You can go talk to a golfie at a trade show and he'll tell you what he's doing, what's working, and you'll go and share it with someone else. We've found that across the board in our industry is pretty good. It doesn't matter if they're next door to you. They'll generally still share. It's a common thing with turf farms. So
it is a great thing. Like I've done that many times.
Yeah.
I've even given you a few annoying phone calls over the times and asked you for statistics on grasses and stuff.
Not annoying at all. It makes me do some work for once. It's good.
But no, it is a great industry because everybody seems to help out as much as we can.
Yeah.
Each other.
Yeah. No, it is. It is. And it's across the board. It's unreal in that regard. Turf podcast. Let's talk about turf at the gardens, because obviously you said 64
hectares we've got.
64 hectares of turf, so not a small area. So mainly, what are we talking? Cooch, kite, what are we talking generally that you're looking after?
Okay, we'll break it up into areas. Okay, the Phillip, where we have Carol's on the domain, that's Kikuyu. And then we've got Durban grass out there as well and a bit of buffalo.
Yep. What do you have? Is it just for shade, the Durban? Is that
the Durban grass? This is actually a good one, because Durban grass was actually founded at that place in the domain. Domain Lawn 3, it was found there.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the guys I worked with actually picked it up and went, what sort of grass is this?
Yeah.
And where we work, it's great. We've got our own lab, science lab.
We've had some stuff there before,
Yeah. So we can go in there, and then we worked out that it was Durban grass.
Okay.
So ever since then, we've had Durban grass through the gardens.
Yeah.
But the great thing with Durban grass, everybody goes, for shade. Yeah. It will grow in full sun.
Yeah.
I cylinder mold at 17 mil.
Yeah, you can cut it short.
Yeah, people don't think that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great for shade. It's great for areas where you want to leave it, say, about 3 inches long under a tree. And it doesn't really grow that much.
Yeah.
It just I guess if you don't know Durban grass, it's like buffalo but curly.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have the itchiness of the old buffaloes. So I love it.
It's a strange place to find it growing though, isn't it? You wouldn't think it'd pop up there.
We don't know how it popped up, but that's where it was found.
Okay. So kike, Durban, and then a lot of cooch grass around too?
Yeah, look, on the sports fields, it's gone through 3 stages since I've been there. When I started, it was all Kikuyu.
Yeah.
And then kai's great for, open areas, but for a sports field where you're having constant play, it wears out too quick. So looked around at the time, this is quite a while ago, this is before TurfTalk, and I thought, Santarana, one of the issues, thatch is up. The studs are going to pull out the thatch.
Yeah.
Negative to it, it's not that great to spray. It can be a bit sensitive. But after a while, like I'd say like 10 years, we've had more grasses come out in the market. When a grass comes out, I'll research it quite in depth, and that's when we changed 2 of our fields over to TurfTalk.
Okay. What was the first thing you sort of noticed?
The first thing that popped with the TurfTalk when I started using it, first lawn I used it on was Bennelong. But to actually get it to the point of using it, I saw it, now I could be wrong, Blacktown Oval. I think you guys had a trade day out there.
Yeah.
And
Campbelltown.
It was Campbelltown.
It was Campbelltown.
And Sutto
was
the green. He was the greenkeeper there.
Yes, he was. Yeah.
He's an ex-apprentice from where I work now.
Yes. Yeah.
So I was chatting to him and picking his brain about it, and he said, he gave a few good points about it. I went, okay, that's interesting. And then I went away, and then I got asked by a director, and the problem we're having, we're using Windsor Green. We're getting frost before it comes in. So we're laying white grass.
Yeah, it's embedded.
Yeah. And then to the public, they'll be like, why are you laying dead grass?
Yeah.
And then you're trying to educate them, and you're like, I want you to find a grass that's green for winter. So did all the research, went back to TurfTalk, had a look at that. And then I was reading the reports coming from Tifton University. So that was
Dr. Schwartz.
Yes. And I actually contacted him. And he was great.
Yeah.
Gave me all this information. And he actually set me on to you guys.
Yeah.
And I think I was talking to your brother, and he's like, come down here and have a look at the grass in the middle of winter. It's green. So I came down here, had a look, and I went, yeah, that's great. Yeah. And then after that, found some turf supplies in Sydney, put the grass in.
Yeah.
But the reason, getting back to the sports fields, that I like it over the other grasses is its drought tolerance, and it's easy to spray.
Yeah.
If you need to spray. Yeah. I find that TurfTalk likes to be cut probably about 19 mil or lower.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, and then the colour, like I say, it keeps in winter.
The winter colour is unreal.
Yeah. Like you can literally see where we've turfed, and it's Santa Ana TurfTalk, and it's like green, and it's going off.
Okay, right. There's a line.
Yeah.
You mentioned Brian Schwartz before, and he always tells a story. He was actually walking. He was in Sydney one day and just going for a walk, and there were people laying some grass in the Botanic Gardens, and he didn't really click. And he said, "Oh, what are you laying?" And they said, "Oh, TurfTalk."
Yep.
You heard of it? And he kind of went, "I bred it." And then away they went. So that was a cool little story. But you got quite a bit of it there now.
Yeah. Well, the funny person, he's actually talking to me.
Oh, he's talking to you, was he? Yeah. Oh, right. There you go.
So we did a whole tour of the place. And
it
was great to actually, after talking to him over email and all that, to actually have him on site.
Because it was by chance, wasn't it, at the time? Is that right?
Yeah.
Right?
I gave it away that he was wearing the big TurfTalk hat.
It's probably a giveaway.
I thought, this guy's got something to do with turf. So I'll have a talk to him.
Yeah.
Well, putting it in, and then told me who he was. And I'm like, I'm Anthony. And it's like, oh, yeah, great. And then we jumped in the buggy and drove around and had a look at the site.
He would have loved it.
And we discussed different issues, and because they've got that over in America on some of the PGA golf courses. Yep. And you were showing me stuff about where the grandstands have been and how it comes back. Talking about renovation and all that sort of stuff. It was great.
Yeah.
It's not often you get that, have someone to come in like that and you can pick their brain.
Well, he's only been here twice ever, I think, and they're only for short periods of time. He's very knowledgeable, Brian, and he's so good to talk to, and he's very open with what he shares and what he knows. And that's like I was saying before. It's unbelievable, this industry that you can contact someone in America and ask them questions about grass, and they're like, "Yeah, here you go. Yeah, this is what it is." Yeah, no, it's great, and it's good to see you getting a solution out of TurfTalk. The reason people like Brian exist is to breed better grasses, and if you can get a grass and put it in, and it's a noticeable difference to what's already on the market, then everyone's doing the right thing, aren't they? So,
and for the turf industry being more sustainable.
Yeah,
if we can have sports fields that are not wearing out, that's great.
Yeah,
because that it's not great for the turf farmers because we're buying less grass, but it's great that we're not spending this money and wasting natural resources.
It's a funny thing you say that because you talk to turf farmers all the time and they say TurfTalk's the best and the worst thing for them. It's the best because they don't have to replace as much turf now, but it's the worst thing because they're not selling as much turf because TurfTalk's doing such a good job. But for you guys, from a sustainability point of view, it's awesome. And it's not just TurfTalk that you've got there and Kike and Durban grass. You've got your turf plots. That both us and Must Turf have put in. Tell us about the turf plots. I've seen them myself, but
So we've got 16 different grasses on display up in our what's called the Royal Gardens. So the current display, we were asked to think outside the box and use a lot of natives and stuff like that.
Sure.
So we've got native grasses and zoysias like the Naras, and we've got Sir Grange up there. Durban, TurfTalk, and some of the older cooches and stuff.
Yeah.
It's a great, what we do up there we maintain every turf plot the same. Mm-hmm. Okay, not one gets more nitrogen or anything. So when a person comes up, they can see how the grasses are reacting. What we do at the front of the turf plots, we cylinder mold.
Okay.
So at 17 mil.
Yeah.
Used to go lower, but to the average person coming through, they don't know if it's been cut at 10 mil or 17 mil. Yeah. And at 17 mil, there's less stress on the plant.
Makes it a bit easier for you as well.
Yeah. And less disease.
Yeah, sure.
Pests and so. But getting back to the turf plots, and then at the back, we cut it with a rotary mower. So like a home lawn.
Yeah.
So they can get to see the steps, the difference of how it looks.
Yeah. That's an awesome comparison for the average lawn owner or user to just walk past and see, hey, this is what the grasses are, but this is what I can get it to look like if I really want to have a crack at it, or this is what I can get with my normal rotary mower.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that everything is, like I was saying before, gets done the same. So you may go up there and you might go, oh, look at that turf plot. That's got a bit of weed in it or something.
Yeah.
But it's being treated the same as the one next to it.
Interesting. Yeah.
So we're not putting them on display to go make them all look awesome.
Yeah.
Because that's not fair to the public. So they'll take it home and go, why doesn't my grass look like that?
Yeah.
But if they can see, there might be a little bit of bindi coming up in this one or something like that. Like, we don't let it get out of control, but we just let people see what it actually acts like.
It's really important you do that. And we do a similar thing here where our brief is always for people that are caring for our plots. We care for them how your average homeowner cares for them, because there's no good. You can get any grass in the world and make it look beautiful if you're going to spend every day on it. But the average lawn customer doesn't want to spend every day on their lawn. Yeah. They want a good looking lawn with minimal effort. So it's cool that you guys do something like that. It shows some pretty interesting results, I reckon, sometimes.
It does. It does. And sometimes the feedback you get when the people don't understand what you're doing is not great. But then other people, you explain it to them and they're like, wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
So, that's all good.
You just talking to you now and getting a bit more of an overview of what you actually do. Sometimes we talk to people that they're from a certain lawn thing and their issue is they've got to look after lots of different stuff and it's really, really challenging. Other people, it's about the look and it's got to be perfect all the time. You're kind of the first person that's got to do both in a lot of ways. So there's a lot involved with what you do, and it's a very iconic place that's massive as well. But what is it about looking after the gardens or working outside in general that you love? What keeps you coming back for 3 decades?
That's a good question. I guess it's changed over time. The first thing that got me into greenkeeping was sport. Yeah. You're growing up, you love sport. So, and then eventually going to a golf course, you get to play golf and all that sort of stuff. And then I really started to, you get to meet more people in the industry and see the passion that people have. And it starts to, rub off on you. And and then for me now, I guess in the role that I've got, it's great that we've got 19 different grasses in the Botanic Gardens, which we maintain. I get the chance to research grass, which I've got a great passion for. And then trialing stuff in different areas. Yeah. It's just stuff that, like the salt tolerance of buffalo or the Seol paspalum, which is a hard grass to get these days.
Can't buy it anywhere.
No, but it was a great grass. You could literally put pool salt on it to kill the weeds, and it'd be. And if you got tidal issues, it was great.
Yeah. I don't think it's growing anywhere in Australia anymore. That stuff.
I don't think so either.
Probably just you. Start selling it.
Yeah. I think they might notice if I take the turf cutter out and start cutting out strips and put a for sale sign out somewhere. Yeah. No, but it's such an interesting place, and I'd encourage everyone to check it out, not just because of the beautiful gardens, but if you're into your lawns, the turf pots that you just explained then, that's sort of interest of everyone to come and have a look at. So if you do get the chance, go and check out the Botanic Gardens and you'll see what Anthony and the team there is responsible for. But I think that's pretty comprehensive there. Again, a lot of stuff that I didn't know that was involved with what you do, and what you and the team do. It's a credit to not just the turf industry, but the wider horticultural industry as well, because it is the place that you send people when you want to go look at plants and look at grass and that sort of stuff. So it's a credit to you, and we appreciate you driving down here and coming on and sharing your story on our podcast. So thanks for being on it. Oh, thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.